To order. Good morning, everyone. We have our special meeting of council for May 29th, 2015, a call to order. First item is new councillor business. Item 2, does anyone have anything for this morning? Thank you. Item 3, we have reports. 3.1, we have report number 15096 from the Deputy Director of Community Services. Councillor Wilbur.
I'll make the recommendation that report number 15-096 from the Deputy Director of Community Services regarding the RFP 2015-22 ice plant replacement be received. Further, that council award the RFP 2015-22 to Train Northwest for design build stipulated price of $1,648,231, and further, that council approve a total project budget of $2,219,500 to fund the Train Northwest bid, BC Hydro power upgrades, TFM consulting fees, and project contingency.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Schumann. Discussion. Councillor Rogers.
I'm just curious. Regarding the report and everything that everybody has read, I was just wondering what the councillors, why they thought that that was the best recommendation. So I'd like to ask Councillor Schumann and Councillor Wilbur why they think that that was the best recommendation.
Okay, and first I'll happy to pass that over to council. I'll give you my views on it as well. For me, when I looked at the proposals, the issue for me is the reliability of the future of we're making an investment here to ensure that we have as best as possible, that you can never get the 100% guarantee in any of it, dealing with mechanical. But to me, the aspect of replacing new and giving us potentially the 20-year life plus for that mechanical systems for those three, I prefer that option over reusing some of the components that are in there and potentially having something fail either in the immediate or in the next 3, 5, or whatever time frame. So that for me, as Councillor Rogers, is why I feel the additional money that we put into it today gives us a long-term, in my view, security of having reliability of that facility in the long term. Because I think, to me, the biggest risk we face in this whole project today is a time issue now of not either getting it finished on time within the ice season for this year, which creates a whole issue for our ice users. And then having something fail in the next little while that we end up losing a facility again because we've got some mechanical failure. So from that perspective, I like the aspect of let's invest today to ensure we have as best as possible the reliability of the equipment and the facilities for the long term for our community and our service users. So, Councillor Schumann?
So ditto to what he said, and I really like the energy efficiency options included. The thing that stands out for me, reducing the amount of power used by 80%. Also the warranties, the 1 year and then 5 years on parts. Anything else?
No, I was just curious to find out how much work I got to do.
Sure. Councillor Wilbur?
Well, I think you guys kind of covered it, but part of when we did have the groups together at the arena and had discussed, and the big thing that came out to me was reusing some of those parts and then finding out shortly down the road that they should have been replaced. So I would rather make that investment and know that we're investing in a whole new system and that we're going to have that longevity out of it. So what bothers me is putting new with old and having the old fail on us, and we did get a list of things that we would may be looking at in the future, so I think we need to plan for that.
Okay. Mr. McFadden?
It's been said, Councillor. I quite agree with all the comments that have been made so far.
Okay. I looked at it, and as I was reading through it, before I got to the very last page, I thought, okay, looks like it's going to be Fraser Valley Refrigeration. And then when I read the recommendation, I went, why? I liked Fraser Valley Refrigeration because of the price, number one. Number two, was the 14-week schedule versus the 18-week schedule with train was 18 and 14 for Fraser Valley. I thought that was okay. But there was something I did read in here. It's for Train Northwest. It said 1 year parts and labor warranty. And then it has a comma, and then it's 5 years parts warranty. So are they warrantying the parts for 5 years? And then if a part breaks in the first year, so they're warrantying the 1 year on the part and the labor to change that component out?
That's correct.
That's how I read that? Okay. The size of the compressors, the plant itself, 170-ton plant for the memorial, 170-ton plant by train for the memorial, and a 100-ton plant for the Kin Arena, and a 150 and a 60 versus Fraser Valley. And then, with all the other ones, you guys have all read it anyways. The refrigerant. I didn't quite understand the refrigerant component of it, being the Train Northwest was an R134A refrigerant and a R507A refrigerant from Fraser Valley. Can I get a clarification on what the price difference would have been between those two refrigerants?
Through your worship, it's not that the refrigerant itself, that there's any significant difference in the cost. They're two different kinds of Freon, and one of them, they have different footprints. They have different effects on the ozone layer, but they're no significant part of the price difference has to do with what you're going to pay for refrigerant on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. Okay. Your worship, I did know, like, it's $500,000. That's a significant amount of money. Plus, there's, with Train Northwest, for changing the electrical, there's an estimate between $50,000 and $75,000 estimate. So that's an estimate that's not even, I don't think that's included in the bid price. So that's up and over the bid price. So that would take it up to pretty close to, or if not a little bit over, $1.7 million versus $1.125 million. So I look at the amount of money that's there, and further, as I went through it, I noted that Train Northwest has not completed an arena ice plant project before, and is hoping to use the city project as a showpiece to allow them to break into the market. That kind of has me a little bit worried because they're not proven. They haven't done anything like this before. I understand that they've had expertise in ice rooms and freezing and air conditioning projects. That part of it concerns me. And then when I go to the size of the ice of the tonnage for the ice plants, I'm looking at it and I'm going, because there is a difference between Train and Fraser Valley for the size of the ice plants that they're planning on putting in there. So I was looking at that and I went, well, I think what they're doing, because of the inexperience, that they're oversizing the project. That's just my thoughts. Through your worship, could I ask administration, what is the tonnage of the existing ice plants that are in there right now?
Through your worship, your bid from Fraser Valley is basically replacing like with like. The Train bid was prepared with separate engineering. The Fraser Valley didn't engineer, they simply spec to replace like with like. So the view of staff and the consultant team is that actually Train is bidding for the capacity that we probably actually need rather than what's in place. So for instance, The reason there's no ice in the Kin Arena until October is not because the users don't wish to have two facilities. It's because the plant at the Kin can't sustain ice when the outside temperatures are like they are in September. I suppose if you were oversizing, that's not staff's view. Staff's view is we're undersized now.
Thank you.
A little more. Because there did say that the Fraser Valley's proposing to reuse many of the electrical components, particularly those in the memorial, and as it is a cost savings at this time, it may result in additional capital investment in the near future. It may result in that. I realize that I look at things sometimes, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And for $500,000, I look at if there's a component that's in there that they're worried about breaking down in the near future, then let's order that component ahead of time so that we can actually replace it when it does go down or if it does fail. And there's no guarantee that a brand new part is not going to fail as well. With Fraser Valley, Fraser Valley has built and maintained a number of ice plants, including Hudson's Hope and Vanderhoof. I look at two companies. One has a proven track record, the other one doesn't. And I don't feel comfortable with having somebody with less experience coming in and working on one of our facilities and then potentially using that as a showcase. If they wanted to use it as a showcase, you would have thought the price would have been a heck of a lot lower, because they're going to be using the facility to be showing off their product, which is great. I've done that before myself. And it goes back to the electrical again, the refrigerant. There is a few other things, but I don't want to take up too much time here. The alternatives. There could have been a fourth alternative. And the fourth alternative could be that staff would look at saying to Fraser Valley, we want to put a bigger unit in. This is the size unit that, let's compare apples to apples here, and send it out again and have another price put in on it, because theoretically we have another month anyways, because Train is already a month behind Fraser Valley. So maybe if we sent it out so that we could have Fraser Valley give us a price on a larger compressor, or a larger ice plant, sorry. And there's other things, like maybe we could ask Fraser Valley to give us a price on the different type of refrigerant, or ask them to, are they comfortable with the components that are in there? Or you could turn around and say to Train Northwest, what would it be like? What would the price be if it was a smaller ice plant? Or what if you went with this type of refrigerant? Or what if you went with less electrical upgrades? The bottom line on all of this is money and how much it's going to cost. It's proven that we don't have the sufficient funds for this project because we deferred capital projects to pay for this project. I just look at it and I go, $500,000 is $500,000. I can't support the recommendation because of the amount of money, and I would like to see it go back out for tender again. We have the option of doing that. Or you could turn around, you could look at recommendation number 3, where we go back to where we originally talked about. I just want to make sure we get this right. And money is the big issue. Comparing apples to apples with this thing is another part of it. And if we can, like you said, Your Worship, we're going to make an investment into this. So let's make sure that the money that we're investing into it is done appropriately. And if that means sending it out to tender again and asking both of the participants to sharpen their pencils, I guess, or change their equipment around a little bit, I think that we should actually do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilbur?
I just want to note that Train Northwest actually has addressed their issue of not being, I guess, the experts in the field by hiring WSP who are experts in that field. And 2, Fraser Valley's talking about reusing the compressors. Well, we've already invested money in those compressors twice. They've already been refurbished, so that's a good sign that they're not going to last the test of time. So I'm 100% behind this motion, and I think sometimes taking the least is not always the best deal, and we need longevity, and I think we also need to have ice in our facilities this year, and postponing that's not going to happen, and then we're going to be spending money on having ice in the County Event Center and going through another year like last season, and I just don't think that's responsible or feasible to our taxpayers. So I think we've got a decision to make. I think we need to make it and get the ball rolling so that we can get our users on that ice.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Javetkov, then Councillor Rogers.
I guess I'll probably be reiterating some of the stuff that Mark said, but I think it's important for considering we do have a responsibility to do our own diligence, and the difference in cost, $600,000, is pretty significant. That's a third or 50%, whatever it is. $600,000 is a lot of money. So I guess the first point is that Fraser Valley are projecting a 14-week completion, and Train is projecting an 18-week completion. So that's the difference between having ice mid-September versus having ice in mid-October. As far as the size of the plants, the Kin Arena is in Train's proposal is increased to 100 ton, and I don't know what the situation is as far as capacity, or I guess other than the fact that these arenas have been operating for many years with the equipment that's there. That's all I can go by. So whether that increase is valid or not, I can't estimate that without more time to actually go and talk to some of the arena people and that type of thing. The memorial and curling, the Fraser Valley is projecting the 150 ton capacity, and Train is 170 ton. I don't know why the increase in capacity there. I know that we've had ice in the summer in the past in the Memorial Arena. So, is it an issue that if it's too warm you can't make ice? I don't know. But I guess what bothers me about the increase in capacity is that it also, when you increase the size of the machine, you also increase the energy use, because it takes more power to run a bigger machine. In fact, all of the aspects are increased. Energy use, the amount of Freon, the whole ball of wax. So whether that's legitimate or not, I don't know. I guess if this was me making the decision in my past life, I would be asking Fraser Valley what their rationale is. And I think that's the beauty of a request for proposal. You could actually go to both of them and ask them and get a rationale. Being as how Fraser Valley has, they've been in the business for years and years. They've got many arenas behind their belt. That would indicate to me that they've got some expertise there that's pretty legitimate, credible. Train, you know, they may have hired somebody that's, I don't know, it wasn't indicated in the report that there was any experience there with arenas. And I looked on the on the website, and they mention ice plants, like for different things, but no arenas in there. As far as the compressors, Fraser Valley is looking at the system that we've got with 3 reciprocating compressors, and there is a redundancy there, so if a compressor goes out, that doesn't shut the operation down. They can rebuild it and the operation continues because they've got sufficient compression. The Train is proposing 4-screw compressors, and that's an indication that, you know, where 3 compressors will do the plant of 150 ton, but when you increase it to 170, that indicates that you now need 4 compressors, which increases the amount of energy use. So when you talk about 80% energy savings, are you talking about 80% energy savings of the increased use? Or are you talking about 80% savings from where we're at, from the baseline? You know, it's not clear. But like I say, when you increase the capacity, you also increase everything it takes to run it. If you put a 50-horse electric motor in there, it's probably something that you could just about lift. You put a 100-horse in there, and it's a lot bigger and it uses a lot more power. So all of those aspects, the refrigerant, looking at again on the internet, you know, the internet has so much stuff on it, eh? They talk about
Sometimes too much.
well, you can be selective. It's like statistics, eh? You can use what you want. But I see in the write-ups for the tetrafluoroethane, which is what Train is recommending, that it's already been banned by the SAE in California. The Society for Automotive Engineers has proposed that this product be replaced by the new fluorochemical refrigerant HFO-1234YF, and that's in automobile air conditioning systems. So it sounds like this Freon that they're proposing is on its way out. So whether it happens, you know, this year or next year, I think that would be a concern to me. The other one, I couldn't find it. Maybe it's already banned. I have no clue. But, you know, that's an issue. And I think that has to be checked out. The Train bid mentions that they're providing, including blind flanges for future expansion. And I was just wondering what future expansion was anticipated.
Do you want that as a question through to administration now?
Well, these are all questions in my mind. I mean, I'm not just sitting here sort of chit-chatting.
Yeah, no, so that's why I wanted to make,
So I don't know, do you want to start from the scratch and, get an explanation on every one of these items, or?
if you got the questions through to administration, yeah, that's what we're here for.
Okay. I think it's warranted because, again, 600,000 is a fair amount of money. I could buy a house up in your area with that money.
Close.
Close.
Not mine, but close.
My mind.
So the refrigerant then, is the refrigerant, are both of them at the point where they'll have to be replaced or upgraded?
Through your worship, staff's research, consultant's research indicates that the 507 refrigerant, which is the one spec'd in the Fraser Valley bid, there's movement in Europe at the moment to ban it that might trickle to North America. The Freon that is proposed by Trane is actually not under those threats elsewhere, and actually in California they've moved to require arenas to use Freon. Is that not correct, Mike?
Correct.
So I don't know which part of the internet you were on, but the part we were on says you actually have to use Freon in California. You can't use ammonia anymore.
Okay, thank you.
So that, so are you, just to clarify then, are you saying that the Freon, the tetrafluoroethane that they're proposing, Trane, that is the preferred product in California?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Freon is permitted, in fact required in California, and both the refrigerants in the bids here are currently lawful in Canada and in BC.
So I guess the statement that I read out there, the Society of Automotive Engineers has proposed that this tetrafluoroethane be replaced by the new chemical HFO 1234YF. Is that erroneous then? Is the internet wrong?
I have no idea, and I don't know why car air conditioning systems are part of this discussion, and I'm not going to have an argument here. Like, staff's recommendation is staff's recommendation. Council can do what they wish with it. I'll certainly answer questions, but I don't know anything about air conditioning in cars in California.
Okay, well, that's an important point to me. I mean, if we're going to use a product that is on its way out, I think that's significant.
Thank you.
So there's a statement there that says Fraser Valley Refrigeration's proposal reuses many of the existing electrical components, particularly in the memorial. Although there's a cost savings at this time, it may result in additional capital investment required in the near future. And I guess what is that based on? And what is the additional capital investment, or is this just sort of just a loose, open statement?
It's based on our best professional expertise, Your Worship.
Yep.
So I guess, on the other hand, then, the stuff that Trane is putting in will not fail in the near future.
No, and I certainly, from my perspective, I made that statement at the outset. From my own perspective, you're never going to get 100% guarantee on any mechanical systems, whether it be new, used, or whatever. You're always facing the risk of breakdown, failure of mechanical systems.
But I guess in the interests of risk management, there would be some sort of definition of what equipment and why it would fail, when it would fail, how it would fail. There'd be some risk assessment. I mean, we talked about risk management the other day there and a risk report, but I don't see that here. It's just a kind of an open-ended comment.
No crystal ball.
Pardon?
I said, we don't have a crystal ball.
Maybe Paul?
No, but we do have due diligence. I hope that we don't work on the basis of crystal balls here, because we're in trouble then. So the other comment here, the arena may result in slower freezing during the warmer fall and spring seasons. And I guess I'm curious, how much slower? Like, is it a couple hours? Is it a day, 2 days, a week, a month? And has Fraser Valley been questioned about that? They do have the expertise. They have been involved in other arenas. So is there an estimate on that, or is it, again, just a sort of an open-ended comment?
So through your worship, we did meet with both proponents. The RFP was for design, build, install. So Train did an independent design, and their result is their result. Fraser Valley told us they didn't do a design, they just said we'll replace what's there. So there is no information from Fraser Valley about how their system will work versus a design parameter. Their information was they were going to replace what was there on the assumption that it was sufficient before, it'll be sufficient now. The staff's recommendation is not hung on any one thing. It's hung on the balance of all of them. Staff is very risk averse because of what we went through at the Calvin Crook Center. We have one bid. First, I should say, council's direction to me was we're looking for a 30-year fix. We're not looking for 2 weeks this fall. We're not looking for the Adam development kids of this year. We're looking for the next 30 years of Adam development kids. Staff's direction to me, or council's direction to me, is we are not interested in deferring a cost for 5 years. We're interested in having all costs in. So I have one bid where the scope basket is very large, fitting within their fixed price. That is Train's bid. I have another bid where the scope basket is quite small and the risks all fall to us. That was the nuts of my recommendation. And you can pick any one of these parts of, I mean, council can come to a completely different conclusion. We've given you that option. If you wish to do so, do so.
Thank you.
So just to follow up on that question then, how much slower is the freezing during warmer fall and winter, or fall and spring seasons? Is it an hour slower, or?
So I'm not trying to be confrontational here, but clearly that depends on the temperature outside, doesn't it?
So is there an estimate, or, I mean, we've had experience with the existing equipment.
Yes, and when it's really warm, it's really hard to make ice. When it's colder out, it's easier.
So Councillor Javeco still has the floor, so I'll get you next, Councillor McFadden.
Oh, sorry.
Regarding the compressors, in my discussions with the people that are in the business, the reciprocating compressors that are there can be overhauled over and over, numerous times. And the cost is around $4,000. That's for a complete overhaul. So that issue and the housings don't wear out. And there is a redundancy built in. So if a compressor goes down, the plant still functions. So again, on the energy, it says, as slowing down the screw speed in order to maximize energy savings while still meeting the required demand, you're saving, I guess it was 80% energy. I don't remember where that was, but so is that energy savings based on the increased requirement, or is it based on the existing energy used on the reciprocating compressors?
So what that statement is actually saying is not that you're going to save 80% energy with this system. What it is saying is the one system, which is the reciprocating compressor system, the redundancy there is the compressor itself, and so you have 3 settings basically, all 3 on, 2 on, or 1 on. So you, at need, you can adjust that system, as we do with the current one, to it's operating at 100% draw, it's operating at 66% draw, or it's operating at 33% draw. The advantage of a screw compressor in that regard is that it's not an on-off switch, it's more like a dial. And so you can move it from 100% of capacity down to 20% of capacity, so you can hit all the areas between 100% and 66% and all of the areas between 66% and 33%. And when you marry that with a modern control system, you get energy efficiencies that lead us to predict that the life cycle cost of the train system will be less than Fraser Valley. That's all we're saying on that.
So the other one I had highlighted here, the motor, and I guess this is on the screw compressor, is sealed in a sealed casing, and it's not vulnerable to harmful conditions if present. So is there a harmful condition that could happen if this wasn't sealed? Like, is there something toxic associated with the Freon, or?
No, it's actually the reverse, Councillor Dracoff. So the application of screw compressors in the patch is normally that the motor is separate from the compressor because they're using propane. So propane is highly explosive and flammable, so you can't have a spark from the engine blow up your plant. So those screw compressor motors in the oil patch have to be located in pretty robust air climate controlled areas so that dirt and that kind of thing doesn't get in and affect the motor. Because you're using Freon in this system, the motor is actually in the Freon. It's bathed in Freon because the Freon's not explosive or flammable, so it's sealed within the unit. It's what they call semi-hermetically sealed, meaning that every 10 years the seal is broken and the motor is reconditioned and the seal is reinstalled. But it's actually sitting there bathed by the Freon. The Freon actually cools the engine. The remark we're making there is aimed at that the fact that in the common application around here of screw compressors, they're very vulnerable to the dirt and that sort of thing. They're not in this Freon application. That's all we're saying there.
I was just wondering if, as far as reference checks, if there was any done on the Fraser Valley, the other installations.
Yes. It appears as though I wasn't clear enough in this report. I am not in any way suggesting Fraser Valley's bid isn't a good bid. That wouldn't get your arena back up and running, and that they don't have a fine reputation. They do. They could certainly do this work. If you took the alternative there, you're going to have ice this fall. It's our view that you're going to spend more over time, and you're going to expose yourself to more risk doing that, but you're going to have ice. They have a fine reputation. We're not claiming otherwise. They've done a number of traditional ammonia arena systems throughout the area, and they've done 2 Freons right in this area.
And are the people happy? I think it was Hudson Hope and somebody else.
Vanderbilt.
Yes. Yes, there.
Then there was a comment here, not only is the life expectancy of the existing equipment a concern, new and or refurbished 480 volt electronic components are difficult to source, as much of the industry has converted to the more conventional 600 volt systems. and I didn't have time to confirm that with, we have 480 volt up at the ski hill, and we haven't had any trouble getting components, so that concerns me, and I did want to do some diligence on it. So I don't know if that's, was that verified, or
So
how
that
was it
information
verified?
comes from our consultants, not just here, but not just our refrigeration consultants, but the electrical engineer that was part of the Force engineering study. Why would we make this stuff up?
Really?
That's my question to Councillor Juvakov. Why would staff make this stuff up?
Well, I guess in the interests of me being required to be diligent, I could come in here and just read off your recommendation. But then obviously they wouldn't need a council in Dawson Creek. They could save quite a bit of money by
Well-
just going with, staff recommendations. I feel that this is my responsibility to ask these questions.
And that's why the chair has given you the opportunity to do exactly that.
Thank you.
But in the interest of fairness to all of council, you guys have had, now Councillor Juvakov, Councillor Rogers, you've had 40 minutes of our council meeting. I haven't given anybody else the opportunity yet to speak other than the movers in the motion. We have a session that we're going to be out of here at 11:15. And so, in fairness to everybody, I'm going to give you some latitude here, but I have to be fair to everybody, and we are going to be out of here by 11:15. So at the will of council, whether we pass this or we defer it or whatever, but we have to be out of here. So,
Okay. So the last point I had highlighted here is about the Freon. In addition to the environmental impact of 507 versus 134, there's a concern that 507 could be rendered obsolete by regulation at some point in the future. And I guess my point in my investigation on the internet is that that applies to both of these chemicals. So, I don't know why you would lie. I don't believe you would lie. But I don't know if the information has been, thoroughly vetted, or, and that's why, like I say, if it was just a matter of accepting all of the recommendations that come from administration, then Dawson Creek would save some money by not having a council here.
well, the democracy of the community is such that people elect us to give our opinion, and that's what we're doing absolutely here today. And that's, to me, exactly the process we should all go through. And then we rely on our administration to provide us with the information and the recommendations for us as the elected body to voice our opinions, our input, and then decide as a majority what direction we want to take and what direction we want to adopt as a result of that information. So, thank you for that. Further questions? Councillor McFadden.
Can I jump in?
So, Councillor Parslow, Councillor McFadden, I'm going to ask to speak first. He had his hand up. I'm sorry I didn't ask you, but you'll be next.
That's okay.
Well, I'll be supporting the recommendation, Your Worship. This is the culmination of a very long and exhaustive process, and we now know that the envelope and the basic building are in good shape. And by doing this, we can probably get 20 or 25 more years out of it. Spending a bit more now, excuse me, I think is better than trying to duct tape it and barbed wire it up, and then hopefully get through. We'll never last 20 years by going with the cheapest bid. I think we have to do this. It'll be a bit longer getting the ice in, but and we've talked about due diligence, and I quite frankly commend all the staff for the work they've done in putting this report together. Right from the start, it's been a good process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Well, I enjoyed listening to Councillor McFadden's a little bit of hyperbole there. That's great. We asked for two RFPs. We got two of them. Obviously, there's differences of perspective. I was like Mark when I read the report. Thanks, staff, for the report. I thought the Fraser refrigeration would have received the award. The conversation this morning has been interesting. I was wondering if some of the concerns that I think were raised in the report about using old electrical equipment has been raised as a concern, which is fair enough. I just was wondering, as we just asked for an RFP, it would be perfectly permissible, would it not, to ask for Fraser Refrigeration, would they consider installing replacement electrical services as part of their bid, and what that would be? Is that not part of the RFP proposal procedures?
Well, we could go back to any one of the proponents and ask for additional information or clarification. To me, from my perspective, Fraser Valley and Train bid. I read Fraser Valley's bid of saying we'll get low and then transfer the risk of reusing old equipment, the older equipment, to the city, and any impacts to stuff that we need to then replace as we get into the project then falls to the city and not to them. And that's a worry for me in terms of what's our end cost going to be here. And I think that, to me, from that perspective, that's why I worried about it, Charlie, but we absolutely could go back if we chose.
Yeah, I accept it completely what you just said, and I'm just wondering, because it's been stressed by two members of council, the big difference is very significant. I mean, even if Fraser Valley Refrigeration was asked about upgrading certain components of their proposal, wouldn't we stand a very good chance of coming in significantly less than the other bid? I guess it's quid pro quo. Train could downgrade some of its components, I suppose. But that's just where I'm at right now. I do understand the concerns about the old equipment, but as somebody said, I think they used the word crystal ball. You never know when things are going to go awry, and it could be new or it can be old. So that's where I'm at. I'm just wondering if we could identify some areas of concern in the lower bid that we might want them to consider upgrading and consider those amendments, if you like, at some date next week. Because after all, with the refrigeration, the Fraser Valley Refrigeration, we do have a 4-week improvement over Train, and if that just became 3 weeks, it's still 3 weeks. So that's just my reflections.
But I guess that's assuming that Fraser Valley come back to us with some answers to it next week. They might be a week or 2 weeks, and so I guess that's a consideration if council can decide. Councilor Rogers.
We've changed out the major mechanical components. An electrical component is not something that's going to fail immediately. Like, your electrical panel that's in your house or whatever, or that's in this building, has that ever failed? I don't know. Likely not. So regarding the electrical components of it, I don't think that they all have to be changed out. And then the other consideration I don't think that anybody's even talked about, we're talking about the tonnage for the Kin Arena being a little bit smaller, but next year we were talking about maybe possibly changing out the slabs. So there'll be better efficiencies when the slabs get changed as well. And it's operated on this size for I don't know how many years, 30 years that's been in there. And that's where part of this cost came from, was the tonnage of the unit. It was said in the report that it was significantly more because of the tonnage and the size of the unit. I know that if you don't size something that is perfect's the wrong word, but that'll operate efficiently with the system. If you've got a piece of mechanical equipment then in there that is oversized, that mechanical equipment is going to be cycling. It's going to be going on and off, on and off. The best way to have it is like you're running your car. You want that thing just to run. There's less cycling because there will be power surges. The energy efficiency is better. You know, we're supposed to be looking at what the most cost-effective way of doing things are.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think our objective here is to provide services to our community in the most financially effective manner. But sometimes you make decisions based on the services to your community and the reliability of that service. And if we make a decision today and that arena fails next year, or we make a decision at the Calvin Crook Center to rebuild a facility for $10 million, and we get into it and we find out, hold it, we made a whole bunch of stuff here that we fixed old for new, and now we got 17 million. So I don't necessarily agree with that statement.
Okay. That's the way you feel.
Thank you.
Anyways, I lost my train of thought here.
Sorry.
Oh, jeez. I keep looking at it and going, let's just send it back out. But your worship, you said that, you know, and council has all said, you know, we got to hurry up. We got to get ice in for those ice users. I understand the emotion that comes from the citizens having to have their ice, but you know, we're talking just over 1,000 ice users. That's less than 10% of the population. The amount of money that the city subsidizes to the ice users is significant. I just look at the cost of it, and I've read on social media the outrage that we're actually going through doing this from some people that were on there. It's not all of them, but you have to try to listen to everybody anyways. But there are some people that are saying that, you know, why fix it, replace it? You know, you can go to that extreme. I just look at it and I go, can we not just send this out and let the two contractors look at it again, express our concerns that are with it, and if it takes another month, I'm fine with that. I know the ice users may not be fine with that, but I want to make sure we get the best value for our dollar. And I think that the amount of money in the financial situation I feel that we're in, spending this much money, because you got to remember, we're spending, I think it's $9 million over 6 years on these buildings. If an electrical component fails or a pump fails, we can always send it out for rebuild. And then we've got the backup that is already there. So I just looking at the cost of it, and you know, I don't want to sit here and keep on deferring capital projects over the years throughout this whole thing. I'd like to see it just go back out for tender again.
Thank you. So,
As the member of council that put the motion forward, I'd like to call a question, please.
I think everybody's had their chance.
Councillor Javekoff, one.
I guess.
So you guys have had 55 minutes here. So.
I know it's just the measly 600,000, so it's taxpayers' money. It's not our personal money, but to
It's
me,
a great part about democracy,
And
though.
excuse
To
me,
me-
but I don't like the sarcasm. I find that a bit bullying, so I'd ask you to stop, please. And
Okay,
Your
I'll-
Worship,
I'll
I
get-
called the
I'm going to give you.
question.
A
Then I'll
question was
get
called.
right
I'm
to
going to
the
give you the
point.
opportunity to make a point.
the point is that we went out for proposals. We've got 2 proposals, and just reflecting on Jim's comments there, that Fraser Valley is a competent operator, and they have made a proposal here that will work, and we will have ice this winter. And to me, it's cost effective, and to my way of thinking, when you go out for proposals, you get a low bid from a good, credible operator, for a proposal that has the credibility of their background versus a high-priced proposal with an operator that has no background, I'm going to be going for the low bid with the operator that has a good background, so.
Thank you.
And the credibility.
Thank you. Question's been called. Ready for the vote? All in favor? Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Thank you. Votes passed 4-3. So mayor's business, next item, 4. I have nothing. Media question. Natalie?
I'm good,
Anything?
thank you.
So I need a motion to recess. We're going to move to close, please. Schumann, Wilbur, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.